found out I left some stuff at home today. When you can use a chainsaw or a bandsaw. Now bandsaws is pretty nice. You don't have to, you know. You don't need a measuring tape. I don't measure anything. Forget about the whole measuring thing. You know, just forget it. Just grab you a piece of wood. This is a pretty good thing to have though. This, you need to make a round circle with it. It helps if you turn it around to start with. Don't have to. Turn on a bandsaw. The concept is when you have that half a circle or that half a log, you just, there's a center part, right? The core. You don't want that. But yeah, you can throw that in too. What I do, I end up with two pieces. This is just out of a green sycamore. Turn this around. I take the big piece with the heart in the middle, and I cut 4 legs out of it. 2 on one side and 2 on the other. It gives you a spare. It's just firewood, right? Shit happens. You need a 4th one sometimes. So, you cut it down the middle, you can either throw that away, but generally, if you got a seat over here, you got enough room to cut 2 legs off of each center. So, and if you know your good straight wood's out here, so cut 2 legs off of here and here and throw the bed in the middle if you want. But this is all you have. That's all it is. 4 legs and a seat. This is pretty wet. I thought this is what I was going to do today because it happens fast, but it's going to slow water everywhere. So I thought maybe what I'd do is do a. This is a bur oak piece. So this is when we got our piece, you know, this is cut the seat out. So now you keep this, and you could do whatever you want to do with that. It goes back to firewood. And in this situation, it was a big enough piece, I ended up with 6 legs. You know? So you get 2 stools. You know, a lot of times when I have a log, depends on how the log is, it's longer on one side, you can make 2 seats. And 4, you know, you can mix them up. Make a stool with 1 top and 3 different kind of legs, you know? Mix it up a little bit. So you can pick out your legs here. This is kiln dried, of course. I cut it down yesterday. So we can pick through here and get 3 legs. We'll start out with 3 legs here. And this is bur oak. I've never done bur oak before. I never have turned it. It looks good, looks dense, and looks kind of... The other thing I like to do, as we go along here, I'll point out some things. I really like this ruler. You know, starts in the middle. It really does work, because when you're laying out 2 legs, put this right in the middle, and then count 2, 4, 6. 2, 4, 6. It's easy not to make a mistake. But this really works out with hats, too, because you want to find out how far you go to this side, where the center is, you can move it back and forth. I find this really works out good.
Is that a Harbor Freight or is it just online?
It's not a Harbor Freight.
All the catalog places that got those.
Yeah, it's not that hard to find. They're out there. But I really like this one. And I like this. This is great. And I had one of the guys in the club, the winter worker, and he converted it over to a carpenter's pencil. And when you're working on rough wood, you know, it just breaks and lead out of those. This is great. Made a slide here, so it's really friction efficient. But there are several things here that I've kind of come up with the stool project, but you ought to have one of these. It plays a couple of roles, makes it round, and then we got to separate the circles. We got to find out how to put 3 legs on a round circle. So this helps out there. I made my own tool rest. I like this. Most all my stools are that long. You know, if you make a longer tool rest, then you don't have to keep moving it and going back and forth. This is pretty helpful. And I don't know if you guys, has anybody got one of those,
As far as I'm concerned, that's the best tool rest there is around.
this is great. You don't have to have one of their lays to get the tool rest, but it really has room in here. And if you got one of these, you don't have to make the other jig, which I make. is a horizontal drilling jig. You don't need a drill press. This converts a lathe into a drill press. It's pretty simple. But if you had one of these and some duct tape, you kind of got the same thing. It fits right in here, you know. So, but that's a few things you really need to do. Then you need a piece of cedar board. It has to be cedar. But put an angle on it. Go on the table saw and cut generally 15 degrees. That's what I normally do. Put the legs on the stool at 15 degrees, and I cut the bottoms of the legs at 15 degrees too. So this is my template. You can change it whatever it is, but this is just a few things that you can use for stools. This is also critical. I think you can buy these at the hardware store. You know, they come in dimensions, exact dimensions, inside dimensions. That's your tenon size. And this is your special tuning cutting tool here, right here. I think it says Sears on there, but these work too. Anybody ever use these? They work good some places, sometimes not. If you get it in wood that kind of chips, they're a little more aggressive, but just sharpen the right side, sharpen the top side. So those are some options. I went off and left my life center at home. Looked like I had enough stuff. But, you know, I'm just one tool away, right.
Do you need another life center?
You got a one-way in your pocket someplace?
Similar.
I like when it has a little extension on here.
Let me see,
But-
I may have one out in the car.
Wow, there's a wood turner.
Yeah, lights and sirens.
While he waits for
Yeah.
his wife, he just
So us, really, I'm not really one of those people that writes a speech and tries to, because I can't read very good and I don't very good for notes, but I lived in Springfield a couple times, and I really work in Springfield too. I'm a mulch guy for Independent Stave Company. I spent the last 15 years trying to figure out how to convert all their scrap into something that's worthwhile. So you go to places like John Deere and Carson's, you know, Nixon Hardware, and places like that, you may run into stuff that I've been doing for the last 15 years. So I've got customers in Springfield and friends and so forth. And I am a graduate of SMSU several years ago when it was SMS. So. This morning, about the time I spent the night in Old Dark with some friends, and about the time we got up, we had this really loud noise, like, my God, somebody just shot a deer outside the door, you know? Come out there and all the lights went off. Squirrel jumped across the transformer and put the electricity out this morning, so things are a little hectic around where I spent the night. Well, let's put this up here. I might say a little bit about safety. We need to, because, you know, people that have been around the equipment and so forth, you think, well, that's simple, it's straightforward, everybody ought to know that. Sometimes you don't. We just had a professional turner come in, and Jerry Clues, super. And Jimmy Clues likes to turn fast. He went around and turned all the lathes up to the high speed to start with. He said, you got to turn. And then he put a 2x4 in there, you know, to turn. Well, yeah. You know, he does his wing bolts. He turns fast. We had 2 different things blow up on us during that hands-on demo. You know, one guy had a big platter, and just about the time he had the platter with square ends, he approached the lathe with one of these. And I mean, everybody hollered, and the piece went flying at the same time. You know, and he was turning, you know, a piece like this at about 1,800, 2,000 RPM. And he hit, you know what happens. And another guy had a big piece, and he had it cranked up there. And when he turned it on, it just flew apart. You know, broke his glasses. You know, and that's all happened in the same day. You know, speed is important. Knowing what you're doing helps. But as we get older, we kind of forget. You know, he just forgot that he had it on high speed, and he hit the button. And it just flew apart. I normally wear the face shield. This is mine. I don't like the replacements they put on these things. It just really complicate life, but you know, you've almost got to have these or buy a new face shield. But I normally wear this. It's really hard to talk and put this on. So with that in mind, I probably won't do that. This lathe is really tall for me. This is where it needs to be, right here. Your spindle height should be at your elbow height. You'll find out that works so much easier. You won't have you won't have cramps in your back and so forth. This is not exactly where it needs to be here today. So I'm going to be up here.
We can put a table down and you can stand on if you want to.
That'll raise you 4 inches.
That might work. But that's, you know, if you're the right height.
He said you've got stools.
Tip these over back and forth.
I've been standing on a stool all my life, you know. And I normally wear a smock because when I don't, the repercussions for my wife can be drastic when I walk in and my shirt falls, you know, and so that's my whole little safety thing is I wear a smock to keep stuff out of my pocket and down my shirt, you know.
Trouble keeping
Sometimes the
chips out of your
repercussions
hair?
from the person that, what's that?
You have trouble keeping the chips out of your hair?
Well, let's do a little turning here. It's always nice to start on a lathe you're not familiar with, but we'll see what happens here. First thing we're going to do, we need to make it round. This is going to be the top side of the stool. Probably. Yeah, and the other side would be the bottom side, right? We don't have to get too carried away at this point. Being exact, and I just push that up there. You can do other things. You can put screws in it if you want, you know. We got a nice clean path right down here. So. We're going to go with it.
Anybody have a radar gun to see how fast it moves?
This has got an RPM meter on it. If you guys want me to tell you how fast I'm going, I can do that.
How fast you going?
900, 900. You really don't need to turn fast. You know, a good tool, good sharp edge, rub the bevel, stand right, you know. So you do this instead of doing this. You guys, we're not going to have a demo here on how to cut. We could. I stand over here, especially on a new piece. This is not a really good place to stand. Huh?
What is the tool that you're using, a rope?
This is a 5/8 bowl gouge with a standard, well, wingback grind, standard grind. I normally use a Hannis grind, and I can do a Hannis grind.
It's an Irish grind, is it?
This is kind of an Irish grind. Here's a Hannis grind. If you're going to make a hat, this is a pretty wicked thing to stick up inside a hat you've been working on for half a day. You get a catch with this, your hat is history. But for this, it works out pretty good. All we really need to do is kind of get this round. Looks like we got a knot or two in there. And I like the top of my stool. I like the top of my stool to have a little bit of a concave nature to it. In other words, when you sit on the stool, that's not really the reason I read that thing. Otherwise, you couldn't put a tenant on her and take it off. I tell people it's a better sitting stool, though. Well, let's put But Ann, you guys want me to tell you what I'm doing? You need a right angle on there, and I used to use the serrated jaws, and I just converted over to the other type of jaws, the smooth jaws. So, top of the stool's done. We got 55 minutes here left. So now we'll do the bottom of the stool. Of course, this is concave. We're going to do a convex here. I think the stool looks better if the top and the bottom kind of go together. So we're not going to measure. I don't need to bring it up, but we're going to anyway. Always turn your lathe off before you move your banjo. You know, nobody said anything about the girl from Harvard that got killed right here. She was a TA, working at night, and by herself, long hair, and got caught in the lathe, and just jerked her right in and touched her and killed her. They didn't find her until the next morning.
Hair like you do? That's why you keep your hair
Yeah,
that way?
yeah.
I
I'm sure glad it's acceptable today, you know.
I notice your hair is growing.
In the morning, you know, and especially when you don't have coffee or running water because no electricity, good thing I didn't have to do anything in my hair. And I created a flat spot right here. We'll use that later. Want to make a flat spot there, and since we're going to curve it in here, we want to curve this back a little bit. And I tell people that's because it makes it look better, but it sure helps to get your drill bit started on a flat surface. And if you curve the bottom side up a little bit, then when you drill the holes in it, it's perpendicular to your bit. So we're going to put about a 13-degree slope on there. Maybe take 10 degrees. And how thick should we make it? About like that. I like to make the thickness of the seat about the same as the diameter of the leg. And I didn't know that. But when you look at a stool and think, man, look kind of off. It kind of looks out of proportion. A thick seat and a thin spindle leg just doesn't go together. So just make this the same, this thickness here, as big as you're going to make the biggest part of your leg. It looks better, I think. What are we doing? The bottom side here, right? I need to get rid of that nut. That'll cause some problems. I make some of my own tools. These are just a stainless steel tube with hose from Home Depot. Get it warm in hot water. Put a little dishwashing solution on it. Slip it down there and it stays. Got shot fill. Really makes a lot of difference. If you're doing a big piece of wood that's 120 pounds and you're doing bam, 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 for a long time, it really affects your joints. So that shock field helps. I like to have a tool down here on my body, you know, so I can do this. This is long enough to do that. So what are we doing here? Cutting it off. So this is going to be the bottom of our stool. Now we want a flat spot on there. Well, it doesn't have to be flat, but it needs to be. This is where we're going to determine what is 0. So, got the bottom side done. Almost. We need to make it round probably, shouldn't we? Probably look better. guys that have been around, you know, you need to look up here, not down here. These beginning turners, you can see so much better. A little bevel on the seat. Then we need to put some legs on it, right? So, where do you want to put the legs? I think probably right there's about right. The middle of that leg goes in that hole. The outside of that leg shouldn't protrude out past the seat. So that's about right. Okay, so now we get into how do you bore those holes? And there's all kinds of wood turning books out there that tell you to put on a wheel and how to make a jig and all this kind of stuff on how you bore those holes. And I didn't want to, I wanted a program that I could do all on the lathe. You know, we all don't have all these extra stuff. You know, we got a lathe, you know. So this is how you convert it. And I just made it, welded it on there. You know, it's a piece of angle iron welded on top of a 1-inch post. And I just cut this piece, actually this is a piece of sycamore. Cut a hole in it. You know, here's your horizontal drilling jig. This is a kind of a different, unique, there's 3 of these out there. There's a kind that got the set screws on the side, little bitty shaft, they go everywhere. This is a German-made one, I can't remember, is it Fox?
Colt.
Colt, there you go, Colt. It's a 1/8 of a turn twist that locks in there. It's a cam lock system. So you don't have screws and anything to grab on here. I like this. I want to thank Larry for chasing me down and asking me to do this. It's always, you know, stand in front of your peers and do something is kind of scary sometimes. That needs to be in the middle there. And now we're going to get, we don't need this for a minute. I've got a stubby at home, is what I normally use. And I really like the light. Here's our template. 15 degrees. There's our flat spot. We're going to go over here and just line it up. You know, just don't measure anything. Just don't. That's good enough.
You're speaking that out.
You know? Whoops. And that's kind of at that line. We drill a hole there, and we get the wood in there about like so. We can make a leg there. Okay, so how are we going to get 3? Boy, that's kind of crude, isn't it? This really tears out real bad. I didn't notice that. I've never turned burr off before. But anyway, what you're going to see today is some concepts. We're not going to worry about saying it. You know, we're not going to look what the tool looks like at the beginning, at the end, but getting the concept down is all I really want to do today, so you guys can take off and just make stools. Yes, sir.
When you hit the handle, it looked like your tool moved. Do you want to check your
did.
15 degrees again, or was I
No.
mistaken? Okay.
Never measured.
I was mistaken.
It is off. Yeah. It's like 14.3.
Oh, well. Then
Okay, now we got 3 legs. How do we do that? This has got an indexing system on it somewhere. Got it? Oh, yeah. And then it's got 3 screws in here you can take your pick on how you want to fit. Well, this is where this comes in handy. Somebody can tell me why this works. I don't really care why it works. It just does work.
It's a law of jump.
It is law jaws, but I don't know which one. It's been too long. Just put this on here.
because my 6th grade teacher said it would work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It works. Just mark off 6 of your diameters. You know, you don't have to worry about setting up your,
6 of your radius.
Got radius.
what did I say, diameter? Yeah, it's a
The
radius.
radius of a circle is 1/6 of the diameter.
Yeah. Then how come the circumference is 3.1416? This equals 6. I don't know. Just works. We're just a little off. But that's going to be equal to the mistake I make on the bottom of the last row. Now you can decide where to put the legs. We made 6 options. So if you've got some grain that comes down here and you want to put 1 in the middle and 2 off the side, you can make that decision here. So, I don't know. I'll take this one here. So that means I got to take this one and this one.
Does strength,
Whoop.
does strength
What'd I do?
come into your calculations at some point? So the legs
There's a
don't
couple
look-
things. Strength, and how about shrink?
Okay.
And you guys can think about that. When we put the legs in here, where do you orient the grain? Think about it, and then we'll talk about that later. I messed up here already. Here's we need to be right in here.
You have 3 extra legs.
I know. I could put 4 on it, couldn't I?
All 6.
You wouldn't be happy, but you could.
Does anybody know how to put a spindle stop on this? Lock this one up? Someplace.
Yes.
We can move it. You can just do it by hand, but it's... Oh, it only locks one place.
Yeah, or 2.
Or 2? Yeah, forget it. No, in the wrong place.
The wrong place. Well, good luck, it's not there.
Let's just do it this way. Just before you go out the other side. Feel it. Just feel it. Don't measure it. Just feel it. We'll go a little bit further. And then mark this. It's kind of neat to have them all the same depth. Okay, so there's one. And here's our second one.
Is there a difference between marking it and measuring it?
I don't know. I just put a piece of tape on there, then I just hit it for each, whatever stool it is. Sometimes they're the same. You got to be off a lot to see the difference on a 3-legged stool. Now you could go ahead and do the, put it up through the top, cut your wedge, and put your contrasting piece of wood in there. If I do that, I wouldn't do the top. I'd hold it down here, do all that, and then finish the top after you get the hole drilled through it. But it's kind of hard to do that in an hour. And you don't need to be an experienced cabinet maker to get that done either. Okay, we got stool, right? So we can get rid of this. Put this over here so we can measure it.
Gary, how did you orient it?
Huh?
How did you orient the holes on it?
I didn't. I just did it.
Just did it. Don't be everything.
There's not much of a difference in the grain there. It's kind of all over the place. If you'll just talk to one way and just buy these little slide things. See this little deal here? Just buy these. They're like 10 or 12 bucks a piece. And then you just take this and pull them out and just slide them back in and out. Gotta make sure you do it right, but you won't do it wrong but one time. There's marked 1, 2, 3, 4. Just line up your worm gear and stick them back in. You don't have to have 4 chucks and 4 these different jaws, I mean, I get so tired of putting all them screws in. You're always going to lose one in the sawdust. Just buy these. This, you see what I'm talking about?
I do.
Yeah. I don't know what they call that. It's like it's got the part of the worm gear. And then you just put these on so you can just have them, just slip them in and out. It's cheaper and they're always available. I'd take that off, but there is a little roll pin. You know, it's probably and when we're talking about safety, this is what I teach 4-H. This is what I make all my 4-H kids use. And we're not going to do that today. But you guys are worried about stuff flying off the lathe and hitting people and, you know, turning a piece of wood and sticking a piece of iron in the middle of it. This is really a good safety thing.
What is it?
I'll pass it around. This is a stub center, but it's as you get them and they're just a circle. That's not quite enough. It's not quite aggressive enough. Take a chainsaw file, take this and pop that out. Those that screw here. Take a chainsaw file and cut some notches in it, and then it's more variable. Now, if you want to learn to turn on spindle turnings, it's a good way to turn because you've got to have a sharp tool and you've got to have it orientated right, or this won't work. And once you get it done, it works. But
Gary?
yes.
That was using a chainsaw file, not the chainsaw.
Yeah.
Just hold it steady. I can get a shot of that.
You don't want to start it. There is a joke about that, isn't it? Well, let's see if we
can't
can
get
make
it.
some legs here.
No. Go ahead.
Somebody was kind enough to mark some marks on the bottom of this before I got here today.
Has anyone noticed the paint job on the lathe?
Looks good.
Is this a new paint job?
New paint job, the reverend.
Brand new?
Spent about 40 hours with a painter's brush, I guess.
Jeez.
Quarter-inch brush, I think is what he used.
Somebody washed it.
Okay, so now we got a tool rest, and I really like a nice smooth tool rest. You know, if you don't have a tool rest, how can you make a spindle that's smooth? I can't do that. It's just, a notch cut a little bit below center on the rough and gouge. And this is where I really wear a helmet most of the time. This is, you got a piece of sycamore that's got a little wind shank in it, she's going to come apart right here. Yeah. Again, I like to have my tool rest here. How long should we make it? Again, I like to use my body. You're better at doing this than you are this, especially if you're pushing. About smooth. Okay, just the right size. So let's figure out what that is. And I might cheat here a little bit and say, let's see what that size is. Oh, good. It's medium. We need to put a tenon on there, right? How do you put a tenon on? There's multi ways of doing a tenon. I like these. And so what I normally do
What is that, Gary?
that is a copper plumbing fitting.
Hold it up for Mike on camera.
And you can make them however long you want to make them. If you want a 1-inch tenon,
I see.
cut it a 1-inch length. Just stick it on in your skew, cut it, you know. So these are brass fittings. They come in 3/4, half, 5/8, 1, 1 1/4, inside diameter. and that's what you want the outside of your tenon. So I normally put one of these on my one-way center, just leave it on there. And this is where you could get your 1-inch wrench out and do it, but this is kind of a chippy wood, I think, so. And this is where you guys that are intimidated by a skew need to get over it. It really helps if you just get out and, now this may be measured, I'm not really sure, but that's about how deep that hole is right there.
Do you actually use that inch wrench as a tool or as a gauge?
Tool. Both.
Okay.
Both. I'll do one. So this is, we maybe make it about, that's pretty close. And I like, with a skew, there's nothing that cuts fiber better than a skew. You can't beat it. First tool was out there, and it's still one of the best. And then with a tuning cut, this is where you always screw up here in front of people, But if you don't cut that fiber clean, you can't make a good shoulder there. Yeah, this is pretty chippy. See, with just having that, you don't have to take that on and off. Now, I could get a set of calipers and do that, but that'd be measured. Gorilla Glue coming up. This is where it really helps to practice with a skew. And I'm not the best at it, but it's really hard to cut that fiber as smooth with anything else. So there we got our tenon and our shoulder. Let's see how close we got. A little on the loose side. Uh-oh. Oh well. A little aggressive. And then it's time to be, however you want to do this part. This is where the seat's kind of a seat, but the legs is where the individuality comes in, and you can put your own spin on things. I like to do, let me get over here. We can pass this one around. You can spend as much time on that as you want, or you can just shoot from the hip. This is a stool. It's got a decoration, and I got one here, and one down here, one over here. If you don't measure, just purposely push it off so somebody's, well, he hadn't have done that on purpose. So that's kind of the opposite end of the spectrum. Nobody can be that far. Right, exactly. Just make them go get. So let's just make it for the sake of time. just right. We got a few knots in here that may come out. We'll trim it up. We're not going to sand in here, so. For literally, you can just go out to the wood pile and get you a chunk of wood, go out and make a stool, and you can do that in an evening. So, there's one leg. Now the important thing is when you get done, there are also all kind of devices. There's one across here, you can put this up to measure. Best thing is put it over here where you can't see it when you do the next one. Makes it more interesting that way. Humpty Dumpty there because I would do my arms. You notice that? Got away from my body movement. And I think that's perfect. So if we do the same length here, and you don't even have to have the top of that. Top of that leg, nobody will ever see. And we can do this. Oh, how come I didn't put it in my small phone? We can do that with the detail gouge. There's a lot of different ways of making tendons, and whatever floats your boat, so to speak. Sharpened up here. It's an inch between there. I kind of bevel this back a little bit. One inch. You don't want to be very aggressive. It's important to make sure you have it right up and down. And jump out of there. Make sure you have it right up and down. And jump out of there. What did I do wrong? Didn't hit the bevel before it went off of it.
Well, nobody's going to see it.
Yeah. They well up there. I'm not a very good spindle turner, and it shows. Another perfect. This is to have fun. You know, and if you just do the roughing gouge pretty slow, you don't really need to have the skew to do that.
David, have you found that the wider the skew chisel, the easier it is to use and less likely to catch?
Yes. Yeah.
The little skew chisels are an invitation for disaster.
They are, and they flex, especially those round ones. My God, where's flat? I mean, you know, I can't deal with
I
those.
can't make my good to save my soul.
Yeah, I'm not. That's pretty smooth. It's amazing what roughing gouge and 40 grit will do. So we could do it, you know, there's all kinds of stuff we can put on here. I kind of like, you know, you see there's one stool going around here that's got those little black marks on it. They're easy. You know, if you want to use a rusty band wire, but you know. So, again, I'm not, you know, just shooting out some ideas here to have fun with later on when you get home. Another perfect fit. I think we're undershooting here. I'll tell you what, though, you know, I've made some stools and put Gorilla Glue on it. You can get Gorilla Glue on there, but you can't get it off. And it goes everywhere. I mean, you know, it comes out and it drips and spews up, and you can't get in that area to get it. You know, I'd say that the guy just really needs to do a better job of cutting the tenon and
Yeah.
So which way are we going to orient the grain of the leg in relationship to the stool? Anybody got an idea?
Say again.
How are we going to orient the grain in the leg with the grain in the seat?
Cross.
It's going to make a split. The seat's going to shrink more in the leg. I don't know. And I wish somebody would tell me which way. I've done it both ways, and I've just done it. And it doesn't seem to be. There's one stool coming around here that's made out of honey locust. Is that stool going around?
I think so. I think it's over here, Gary.
There's a honey locust stool over here that I made a year ago. It was dripping wet. I didn't put it in a sack. I didn't do anything with it. Just made it and it's set there in the shop. Now, if anything's going to split, it's going to be honey locust. You know, it's tough. It doesn't give. And there are just a few hairline cracks in that after about a year. So I don't know what the answer is. I really don't. How we doing on time?
You're fine. Be careful with your burn. So I'll smoke the electric.
Okay.
You're fine on time. Anybody want to quit right now, so you can go a little bit?
There's one more thing we need to do. Come on.
A lot of the old farm tools and stuff they used to make, they used green wood and dry wood for the, like the leg.
Yep,
Dry
right. A lot of your old chair people did that. You know, when you make a Windsor chair, you dried the tenon, you put a dry tenon in a green hole, and then it would shrink up there. I don't know the answer to that. I wish I did. I've had different people give different reasons, you know, and they're opposite. I think it kind of depends on the wood. If you're going to do a sycamore, for instance, that if you're going to do sycamore that has a big shrink swell, you may want to turn the grains to match so they both shrink together. I'm just talking out loud. Now, if you got an oak or honey locust that doesn't shrink a lot, but it's going to crack if it puts pressure, I'd say, I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I wish I knew the answer. So I've asked that question, and you know, I built my own house out of wood peg. You know, it's an old barn, 100-year-old barn. I took it apart, wood pegs, and put it back and stuff, and I know what you're talking about. You know, the green concept, and it'd pull it, actually bend those pegs sometimes. But I don't know. I guess I just need to do some of those and wait and see what happens. Tool rest is getting built up on it. That's kind of the bad thing about making your tool rest out of mild steel, that tannic acids in the wood, they start reacting. It's rough already right here. It's kind of, you know, a stainless steel or hardened steel works a lot better. Then it's kind of hard to get one of those. I got one of those. I didn't really want to spend 150 or 160 bucks on a really good tool rest to do this. Nobody asked me how I got those rings on those legs yet.
How'd you get those rings on that leg?
Did you?
Stretcher?
Yeah. That's actually a two-part leg. You know, that one leg goes up in it, the other part about 1.5 inches. You know, you can see the grain. It almost matches, but not quite. But you can kind of hide that. But it kind of makes an interesting effect. Got to spend a little more time getting those tendons a little bit closer, but they fit in the hole. So.
You didn't get the bottom job.
Nice looking top, right? There's a lot of ways you can deal with this. Lately, what I've been doing, knockout bar.
It's right in the front.
I've learned to bring my own. I tell you what, it's bad if you get up there and you can't get that out of there. Oh, there it is. This is, you can do this multi different ways. We could leave that just like it is. Push it up there and take that off, and then just sand the nub off if you wanted to. But that takes a little bit more expertise and a little more finesse. So here's another way of doing it. How are we doing on time, Larry?
You're fine. You only got about another hour, right?
Yeah. This is another way of doing it. I think sometimes the degree of expertise is in reverse proportion of how many tools the guy brings with him. Was it David Ellsworth's demo one day, and he showed up and he said, "Well, I brought both of my tools." And that's all he had was two gouges. He put on a good demo. I mean, everything else is kind of set up. So we can put that back on, and hopefully it hadn't worked too bad. We can do this with different things. I kind of like a badan for this, which is I just made out of a pair of square stock. Made a handle that's again plastic. My shop is not heated. I have a little bitty spot in it that's heated, and so when I go out and need to try to do something, and you pick up a aluminum handle or a steel handle, man, it's cold, and then you have to hold that thing, and if it's shock absorbed, man, it stays, and then your hands get crampy. Mine do. So I think this plastic on the outside really helps. To me, it does. Again, we're going to make probably this is one way. We don't want it on the bottom side.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Make just a little bit of a place to grab that from the other side.
There we go.
Boy, this is really fuzzy stuff. I thought it'd been more fuzzy stuff. I thought it'd been more closer toward white oak.
Grabbing on the inside.
Yeah, grab it on the inside. That ain't much grabbing space. But we don't want to make something you're going to have to whoop. We want a better spot than that to grab it. I don't like that at all. Yeah, I may have to make it a little bit bigger. Dovetail. Wow. It'll work. Again, I just kind of want to show you maybe a little bit of the concept. This is where you don't grab a 5/8 bow gouge and jump in there. We don't have much hooking. That'd be better. Thing looks pretty out of sync, doesn't it? And this is the reason we didn't finish it before, because it's probably not going to be, it's not going to be really perfect. Again, if you put a little concave surface in there, you don't have to measure it. Yeah, we're got quite a bit off here. Again, I've got, see, this is, my flute is almost closed. Not quite, but I'm still rubbing that bevel, because that bevel is just a very short. It's no more than a 1/16 and a half or something wide. And if you're ever going to try to turn thin, this is a real key to doing that. Because if you get your bow gouge like this, and you got a bevel that's real thick and wide all the way here, when you get a catch, it's got to grab and pull that bow gouge way over here before it quits. But if you're already over here to start with, you can't get a very big catch. And you still got the sharp edge. It's a reinforced edge, and I like that. I started, you know, Johannes Mikes has shown me how to do that, and I do it for hats, but I do it for most everything else also. It's not as, you can cut, you can make as big a shaving as you want. You know what you ought to do sometime, just for fun, is have a contest to see who could bring in the longest shaving.
In one piece.
In one piece. Yeah, it's got to be in one piece. I got one 85 foot. Big piece of hackberry, making a hat. And I didn't know it was that big until I started measuring stuff. I thought, you got to be kidding me. I put it on top of my wife's car, and it went back and forth 5 times. But this is I really like this grind. Again, this is the top of the stool, so you can spend a little time here doing this. Get that little nubbin off. This is I've never done this I think this has got to be, maybe this is 3/8, huh?
Can't catch what you do.
We could shear scrape this a little bit, or you could get in here with a round nose scraper however you want to do, take that out. Anyway, we can spend a lot of time or not a whole lot of time, either one. The bevel that adds a little bit, maybe. Do a lot of stuff. You know, right here is a good place to do a little lettering or wood burning. Who's it to? We had one of the guys in the group that wrote a song around a bowl one day. You know, just the musical notes. It's great. You do it right here. Okay, there's the seat. And I'll show you another thing here, probably. We can make a hole, but pencil mark works pretty good. Oh, there's my notes. I forgot what I was going to say. This is why these keys, chuck keys, are so hard to find.
There's one in the sawdust, sir. It's all that.
Is it? At this point, we can leave it. You can put a little plug in there. If this is a milking stool, just make your little round thing like this with a little tit on it. Stick it on the bottom. And it'll get a laugh every time somebody sees it. You know, they say, well, what's that? They say, well, that's a milking stool. You can also come up here and just take that off. If you don't have that if it's not that deep, just put it back on there and cut it off. We can probably do that. Even if it's a little out of round, it won't make any difference. Just cut that off of there. What are we doing on time anyway? There's one more thing I want to show you before we get too far. We got the 3 legs, right? We got them made of old. How are you going to cut that edge? How are you going to make that stool fit the ground? You're going to walk around and make a line and cut it, and then cut it, and cut it, and cut it. Easier than that. We'll modify this just a little bit. It's amazing what 40 grills do sometimes. That's just a piece of white oak. Actually, it's really come off of, you know, you can get these things, or you can make your own whatever. And we had a template for the top. There it is. There's your 15 degrees.
Mark, make sure he doesn't slide off again.
Yeah.
And I don't know, the height is maybe relevant a little bit. Whoop, it does. We might ought to tighten that up a little bit. I think this leg's been used a little bit, but it's just about enough to... It's going to be good. There's 15, right? There's 15. Isn't it neat? Sandpaper's already there. Oh, this is really stringy stuff. perfect bevel on there. Green wood really plugs sandpaper quick, but it's better than the alternative. We got a little few joints that are a little bit loose, but they're great.